Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to what is the 101st Red and Blue Review show with me, your host for tonight, Ian Lyons, and I think Mr. Phil Potts driving a bus somewhere or other. So if you're at a bus stop watching this, be sure to wave him past and let him go and pick someone else up, because we've got a lot to discuss tonight. And with that, as you can see on the screen, we've got some new faces, some old faces, and a couple of bald heads. So with that, you can see Rob Donovan has been on the show before, but not for a while. Hi, Rob. How's things?
Really good. Pleasure to be here on the back of a win. So, yeah, happy.
Yeah, that's the only time we get you on. So it'll be the same time next year, I would have thought. Greg Ellis, long-time member of the Red and Blue Review, former producer, long time no see, young man. How are things with you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, Ian. Yeah, I'm really well. It's great to be back, and thanks for having me on. Hi, Rob. Hi, Tim.
Good evening.
Good to have you all. And as viewers will know from his regular visits to us from down under, it's the fantastic Mr. Tim Richards. Timothy, how are things this Tuesday morning?
Yeah, cold, but good, thank you.
It's probably a bit colder up here, I would have thought. It's been throwing it down with rain, and I'll make my excuses now. If you can hear noises crashing around, it's not the missus throwing pots and pans, it is the rain hitting the roof. Right, okay, we've got a lot to talk about tonight, as the boys have already touched upon on the back of a great win. We will probably skip over the Southampton result, and we will talk about the Palace Villa game, news about Mr. Hodgson, obviously, some potential candidates if the news is true, player situation, the Arsenal game where fans are finally back, and during the show, I should say, we'll provide updates with the under-23s, which is happening now, and I can tell everyone that isn't already aware, we're already 2-0 up, which is good news. Right, okay, before we do kick things off though, we were sadly notified of some sad news that former kitman Brian Rogers sadly passed away recently. So clearly the thoughts and condolences of all of us, and I'm sure all of you, will go with the clubs to his family at this sad time. Right, boys. Okay, on to the game, the Palace Villa game. We will cover the lineup, I think, first. We'll have a look at see what was there. So the lineup was a changed one from obviously previous weeks. In goal, we had Jake Butland. Then we had Ward, Kouyaté, Cahill and Mitchell at the back. Eze, McCarthy and Schlupp started in the middle with a front three, Townsend, Benteke and Zaha up front. Rob, what did you make of the changes and the fact that PVA and Luca had been left out? And when I say left out, I understand that there were family issues for the pair of them, supposedly. But what about the chances given to the likes of Butland and McCarthy to start?
I was happy. It was a very attacking lineup. Butland's an able goalkeeper. I'm more than happy to see him again. Give Greig a rest. Mitchell over PVA is just a no-brainer these days. I have got a soft spot for PVA, but not when he's on the pitch. I like him off the pitch because he's been quite good with my boys when they've been mascots and stuff. And McCarthy, he should have played against Southampton and just dealt with James Ward-Prowse. We needed a player like him to get in his face. So I was happy to him to provide the bite. Come on to it. I didn't think he had the best game, but it was nice to see him. But the attacking lineup, I was excited with Schlupp in there with Townsend, Wilf and Eze with Benteke leading it. I was looking forward to it.
And Greg, again, welcome back. What did you make of the changes that were made by Roy? And do you think you would have had someone else start in those positions?
To be honest, I thought it was a good team selection. I think it just goes to show you that we've got good players in the squad that can step in. I think you're quite right. Even if it was personal reasons, Tyrick Mitchell stepping in for PVA, I think is we all know that the quality of Tyrick Mitchell. I mean, clearly that goes on later on in the game, but Yeah, I was quite happy to see James McCarthy come into the team as well. I think he offers a bit of grit and a bullishness in midfield, and I completely agree. I think if that was their present for Southampton game, it might have made a bit of difference. But in general, I was quite happy with the starting lineup. It's good to see Schlupp back in the side as well.
And yourself, Mr. Richards?
I was more surprised by the subs bench, to be fair. I'm still not quite sure why we had 2 keepers on the bench. A bit odd, but it was nice to see him change it up. I don't think I would have made too many more changes, to be fair.
I think I read somewhere that the reason there were 2 keepers on the bench and not a number of the under-18s were as a result of the under-23s tonight. I think a number of them were likely to be involved in that squad and the bubbles. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just that time of year at the minute, isn't it, where the not necessarily the foot's off the gas, but for me it was nice to see Roy making changes. Now it could only have been that they were enforced. I don't know quite why Butland took over goal. I don't know whether you guys saw anything that may suggest that it was an enforced change or not. But with regards to Butland, I like him as a keeper anyway. I'm surprised he hasn't had more of a look in, to be perfectly honest. But I think the squad, and picking on what you were saying, Greg, earlier, is that the strength in depth in the squad is pretty good at the minute. But Rob, the first half performance then with that starting lineup, what were your expectations before the game?
So I thought we would play like we did in the second half, to be honest. I thought we'd press them and get into their faces and just constantly speed of attack. As I say, I missed the first 10-15 minutes or so, but it just clearly wasn't happening. Benteke and Wilf weren't doing the press at all. They were very slow. They were very sluggish to shut them down. I think that gave them the space, and they were winning battle in midfield. I thought McGuinn, I think he's a quality player anyway, but he was just ruling it.
And Greg, what did you think of the performance in the first half?
I think my initial thoughts in most games now is to just try and go 5 minutes without letting one in. So I think once you get to the 6th minute, I tend to breathe a sigh of relief. I think what are my expectations? My expectations are, presumably the squad watches back the games and analyzes the clearly the first 10 minutes and the number of goals that we've conceded early on recently. My expectations are that the team just does the best to mitigate that and find a way of remaining competitive, in the early parts of the first half. So just staying strong, being resolute, keeping it simple. I like simple football. Let's not lose our heads. Villa are a comparable side to Palace, I think, in terms of the quality they offer. We've obviously had a bit of time longer in the Premier League in the recent years, but it is Aston Villa. They do come associated with one of the big club sort of mentality. So certainly for this game, it was just let's not concede. Let's get through the first 15 minutes. Let's defend resolutely, keep our shape, and then try and suss out how they're going to come at us.
Tim, I neglected to look at your prediction for the game on the Prediction League. So perhaps you could just enlighten me as to what your thoughts were in the run-up to the game as to what we could face and expect to see, certainly as a result. Did you expect them to beat Villa, or did you expect us to maybe lose the game?
What's a Predictions League? Sorry, I haven't got a clue what you're talking about. Sorry.
It's like your mate's top up.
No, let's not talk about that. I've told you. Okay. I thought we might scrape a draw. To be fair, I thought the first 25 minutes was awful, and we were very lucky not to be more down than we were. But I think part of the problem you got is all season they've been told to play a certain way. Then all of a sudden he changes the squad and then says attack. And most players, football players, are simple people. They train, they do their routines, they play a certain way. So I think partly it was they weren't used to playing that way. And also, like most of his teams, we were far too narrow. When you look at when Villa were all over us, the majority of the first half, constantly it was either the ball down the wing or the diagonal ball across to the other side, and was catching us out every time because we were so narrow. And that's a typical Roy Hodgson tactic, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with that because he's very focused on a narrow formation, certainly, you know, and protecting the middle. And all the top teams, all their joy this season has been down the flanks, down the wings. And I certainly think over the course of 90 minutes, the game was a tale of two fullbacks. Certainly for me, with regards to performances, we'll talk about the left back in a few minutes. But I thought that Ward was having a torrid time for the first 20 minutes, and I would agree with the, you know, the sentiment that we did well to hold on, and then we started to grow into it. I don't know. Why do you think we found ourselves growing into the game, Greg? Who do you think started to step up?
I think we started to find our feet because I genuinely think Villa lost a little bit of composure. They looked comfortable once they'd scored, but then really they didn't capitalise on it. And I thought Palace started pressing and putting the ball about quite nicely to try and get back into the game. You know, I think Eze, when he gets on the ball, you know, he's clearly got a lot of talent and a lot of skill and promise to come. And I think when Eze is on the ball, you know, teams are starting to get a little bit of fear factor behind him. They know what he can do. You know, he can pass and move the ball, but you know, we've seen he can dribble the ball, you know, and go on these long winding runs and has produced goals. So that is a big threat. So I think Eze certainly showed promise, you know, when we were behind. So yes, I'd say Eze really.
What about yourself, Rob? Who do you think started the I don't know, started the rear guard action, seeing as that we were on the back foot for quite a lot of that first half? For me, I mean, if I quickly jump in, I thought Wilf turned the ball over so much in the first 15 to 20 minutes, which I know you didn't see. But with regards to the others, who do you think was starting to influence the game moving forward?
Well, I was actually going to say Will, from what I saw, because he slowly got into the game. He was starting to have a bit of joy, and I don't want to go on to the second half, but he was actually starting to beat players, which is something we haven't seen for a number of weeks with him. So, but I think Benteke started to bully their defenders a lot more as well and put himself about. And he always wins every header, but it's more the fact that they started to panic around him. They weren't as composed at the back, so if they did clear it, they were just clearing it aimlessly, and we were picking it up in midfield. So yeah, he just gave our midfield a chance.
Tim, do you think McCarthy did earn his place for next week?
Yeah, I'm not the biggest. I haven't been the biggest McCarthy fan, but I thought he was a step up from Luca yesterday or on Saturday. And I think also Townsend had a brilliant game. I thought the effort he put in, the crosses, which is what we've been saying all season. But I think he was a lot to do with what turned it around for us.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I think Townsend's certainly far more influential now, and you know, we're saying on the chat, weren't we, during the game? And we've been saying on the show for a long time. Benteke is one of these confidence players, and if you give him the ammunition, he will score goals. It's no coincidence that under Allardyce, when you had Will on one side, Balassi on the other, and the crosses were raining in, he's got 15 goals. And it was noticeable, and it has been noticeable over the last 4 or 5 games, that that's exactly what they've been doing. I think they've been trying to mix it up. They've not been trying to play too pretty football. They've actually been trying to bypass midfields and going up to him. And with Benteke's increasing influence in the last few games, Greg, How do you think that relationship between him and Wilf is starting to develop now?
I think it's clear to see that over the last couple of games, that it's really starting to gel. I think the football's been an improvement on what it has been. I think Eze in the earlier part of the seasons definitely came with some expectation, and that's difficult when you're young, to hit the ground running and have a 15, 16 million pounds, whatever the value was. So I think it's very difficult to hit the ground running. That's a lot to take in mentally. But I think as the season's gone towards sort of the business end now and finishing up, I think he's really hit his stride, and I think he's settled into the club really well. And I think the relationship is in a good place. I thought that was quite evident in the second half yesterday, really.
I think the one thing that McCarthy brings, he's like Luca in breaking up tackle, but he doesn't look, unlike Luca. Luca looks for the Hollywood pass, and sometimes they come off and look great. A lot of the time we turn over the ball, whereas McCarthy just wins it, plays it simple, and then says to the others, "You're the playmakers. You go and do your stuff." And I think that really works well with Villa on Sunday. But I think Eze as well. Every good game Eze plays, it's kind of making Wilf worried. I think Wilf has to kind of step up and match him because he's not the big dog no longer, and he has to raise his game to still be the main man.
Tim?
Yeah, I think Villa second half was probably the best half of football we've played, if not this season, probably season and a half, maybe 2 seasons. But what I thought was really obvious, the last half of the second half, the link-up or the play between Eze and Wilf was probably the most natural that I've seen so far. It looked like they didn't actually have to try. They kind of knew where each other would be. It seemed more of a wavelength rather than, or where's Wilf or where's Eze. But what struck it for me was, I don't know what commentary you guys get up there, if it's the same as we get here, but our commentator was Matthew Upson, and he had 2 comments, and it was very interesting. The first one he was saying was, if he was Parish sitting during that second half, he said if he was Parish sitting there watching that game, he'd be wondering, surely, well, where's this Palace been all season? This is the Palace we expect, and where have they been? Which I thought was very telling and very accurate. And the other stat I saw, I know Ian loves his stats, was apparently the total number of efforts on goal in that game was the second highest in the Premiership all season. So it tells you they do have the ability.
Well, I mean, it certainly was an open game. I mean, what the stats didn't say is that there were almost just as many chances for them as there were for us. So, I mean, defensively, it wasn't necessarily a great game for us, but it was a nice open game. And again, with not much on the game, I guess players were allowed to relax. But that's right. I mean, that's a very telling comment from Matthew Upson. I know that over here we had Don Goodman, who I always rate as a pundit anyway. But in the run up to the game, they're all saying, how lucky we should be with Hodgson and, what he's done with us and everything else, and then you looked at, I was looking to my boy and saying, but how many games have we lost this season? But we'll come on to that. So let's go back to the first goal then, the goal that we conceded, McGinn. I initially thought it was a fantastic strike. I love the player. I think he's a great technically gifted player. But on latter inspection, it got a bit of a deflection off McCarthy. Rob, do you think Butland could or should have done better with that?
No, it's one of those that, as you say, on first view, it looks like he's stroked it perfectly into the corner and out of his reach. But it was a long way out, and it wasn't particularly powerful strike. It was just nicely passed. But he had a couple of players in his way. You don't know how late he saw it. I never saw the goal from an angle from behind the goal, so I don't know what his vision was like, but it looked like he had a couple of players in the way. But in terms of cutting out the cross, and the header from, I think it's Cahill, wasn't particularly great. And McCarthy was slow to go out. So it's definitely, both goals were preventable, but I wasn't particularly happy with how we conceded that one.
What were your thoughts on it, Greg?
I I didn't think there was anything he could do really. Much like yourself, on first thoughts, I thought I tucked that away beautifully. Can't really do anything about it. Yeah, I didn't really see the deflection until the replay. But no, I think it would be harsh on Butland really to criticise, especially coming in. For his first competitive start after effectively being on the bench. I mean, did he join January? Was it in the transfer window? Yeah, so he's had 5 months of training and not really tasting first team action. So no, I think I can forgive him for that one.
Tim, overall with Butland's performance, he made a couple of half decent saves. I don't think there was much he could have done for either goal personally. What were your thoughts on his performance in the game?
No, I thought he did enough. I didn't think he did anything wrong. The goals, I agree. I don't think there's a lot really he could have done to stop them. Some of the saves, you could say he was, right at him, but he still had to be in the right place. We've seen certain other Palace goalkeepers let goals like that, or shots like that in. So, but no, I thought he commanded the box. He seemed to talk well to the defence. There was a lot of communication going on. So no, I thought he did the right.
I guess the key question for everyone is, would Hennessy have saved it?
Obviously.
I'm surprised no one's put it out there. Hennessy would have saved that. But what's the general opinion amongst you guys as to whether or not he then plays for the rest of the season? Rob?
No, I like Guaita. I want him to play. I don't want anything to jeopardise if he suddenly thinks that we're playing Butland for whatever reasons. Whatever gets in his head, no. Butland, he's an able replacement, able stand-in, but Guaita's our number one. And I want him to have as much game time as he wants.
What about you, Greg, then? Would you agree?
I think it really comes down to the manager and the player. I don't know. The manager might have had a conversation and said something along the lines of, I think you've started every game this season. We're safe now. Maybe taking, do you want to take a break? And I, if he were to say, yeah, I'd say that's fine. Clearly, you want to play as much as you can. But he might have offered the opportunity to just have a little break away from it and just rest and allow a chance to see what Butland can offer. Really, I don't think Guaita's position is under threat. I think Guaita is a better goalkeeper and would reclaim the number one spot anyway. So I think it would have just come down to a conversation with the manager. But in answer to your question, I probably would rather see Guaita in goal.
And you'd agree with that, I'm assuming, Tim?
Funnily enough, no, not really. I don't see a harm in playing Butland. Well, no, I think Guaita's probably safe in how he sees himself being thought of at Palace. I don't think he's under any illusion that he's not number one keeper. And with Butland, he's a quality keeper, and we want to keep his interest up. We want to keep him, invested in the club, wanting to play for the club. So I don't see any harm at all with him playing the rest of the season. It keeps him going, keeps him motivated.
Yeah, it's interesting to note the comments coming through the chat. Few people wouldn't be unhappy seeing him get a game against Arsenal. Some others, Matty Cannon, thinks it'll be a kick in the nuts for VG. I guess with that, it's all about how the manager does it, isn't it? And say, look, you've been my number one for, God knows how long, and it's only right that I just want to give you a rest and then give him a chance. Interestingly, it wasn't Hennessy who got called up, so I think that probably speaks volumes, doesn't it? Right. Okay. So let's move on and talk about our opening goal then. A young certain Mr. Tyrek Mitchell putting a cross in for the beast to score. Were we worthy of the equaliser, Greg, at that time?
Yeah, I think so. I think we'd showed a little bit of promise. I think we were doing our best to come back into the game. It looked a bit more positive than what we'd seen previously. It just seems strange that Ben Tekkers coming good all of a sudden, and you start putting balls into the box, and he starts heading them in. It's a strange one, really, as to why that hasn't really happened for quite some time. But yeah, I thought we deserved the goal. He took it brilliantly. I think it came at a good time. The momentum, I think, was tilting. I thought we were very worthy of equalising.
What did you make of the opening goal then, and the move in the build-up for the opening goal, Rob?
Do you know what? I loved it because they're saying Benteke's coming good. All season we're saying feed the beast and he'll score, but the only supply has come from Townsend. He's the only one that floats across in. Wilf does, if he hits it high, he over hits it because he just whacks it as hard as he can over, or he plays it along the floor, which is no good for Benteke. And it's the same with PVA. Every cross he does is a cutback rather than a floaty cross. Whereas it was a nice little dribble from Wilf, lost control if we're being honest. Tyrek picks it up and just first time cross bang, and that's Benteke's all day. He's going to finish them for fun. So I really liked it, but it's kind of like Mitchell showing Wilf and PVA how you actually cross from the left. Just get it over and we score. It's not rocket science.
Well, no, exactly that. And Tim, what did you think of Wilf's involvement in the build-up? For me, I think it was the first time he actually did something in the half, and then it paid off.
Welcome to the frustrating life of a Palace/Wilf fan. This is one of the reasons why he's so hard to play against, because he's so unpredictable. For most of the game, you're just screaming at him, and the opposition like, "Oh, this is easy," and then he flicks a switch. He does something that nobody can foresee or nobody can cope with, and he becomes dangerous. I think what it does show as well with Mitchell is I don't think he's that far behind AWB now. He's shown over quite a few games now. His defence is getting better. His crossing of the ball is getting better. He's getting more into position. So I definitely think he's on his way to not being that far behind him.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I think we've always said that he was a better passer of a ball, perhaps better going forward than Aaron Wan-Bissaka now. AWB, not that I covet players from other teams. I think AWB has certainly improved this season with Man United, whereas he I think it went backwards when he initially joined them, and he's developed that part of the game. But what I do like about Mitchell is his starting position. He knows how to defend, and I think having Schlupp in front of him helps him with that. I think when Wilf's in front of him, it probably puts him under a bit more pressure, which you'd expect of someone of such tender years.
How many goals did AWB score for Palace?
Just the one, wasn't it? Just the one. Yeah, no. Well, that's fair. That's fair comment. That's fair comment. Right, so let's move on to then 3 or 4 minutes later, and that debacle that ended up with their second goal. I mean, what was going on there? Can anyone tell me what Ward was doing, where he was? I mean, Cahill obviously had no idea where the ball was. I mean, I saw that some people at the time were saying Butland should have come out and claimed it. And can someone make any sense out? Greg, can you make any sense out of what went on?
I think, Ward being out of position was tempted, wasn't he, to go in for the ball when really I think he'd lost his man. I don't like finger pointing at players, but I think in this instance,
what are you on here for? If you're not going to point fingers at players, get off.
Look, I think Joel Ward is a club legend, and everyone has an off moment, and I think he'll watch that back and he'll feel disappointed, like we all were at the time. But look, those kinds of things happen. So look, he's lost track of his man. He's been tempted into a situation, and quite frankly, if it felt like Villa had an age to put the ball away, really. And you knew what was coming. It was all too familiar.
I think as well. I think one of the things you got to look at is you look at the movement from the Villa players for the first 20, 25 minutes, 30 minutes. The movement off the ball, the way they were putting just our defence around, they were on fire. And Ward, I love Ward. He's club legend, but he had a bad game. Players have bad games. They're not robots. I think partly it was just the sheer movement of the Villa players, to be fair.
Well, that's very magnanimous of us so far.
No, I wouldn't. No, I don't agree.
I was just about to say, Rob, you played the game. In fact, you're still playing the game. What would you think of your centre halves if you turn around and watch that going on.
Literally, the reason I missed the first 20 minutes of the game was because I was coaching my oldest boys' team, and we conceded a goal. They're under 12, and we conceded a goal exactly like that half hour before. I thought I was watching a live replay of it. It was just farcical defending. They're just Ward getting. What annoyed me about Ward with there, and I don't have to caveat and say he's a great seventh club. We all know that. But what annoyed me about Ward is he goes, realizes he's not going to make it, turns and has a look behind him, knows the player's there, but then just doesn't move. And I don't know what's going on there. Cahill just turning his head left and right, not knowing where the ball was, is just, I suppose it happens, but it just looks ridiculous. But it looked like a schoolboy defending, and it was embarrassing. And what you don't see, although these goals happen, you don't see Premier League teams' defence looking like schoolboys, and we did in that.
Well, what always amazes me, and it's like it is on a regular occurrence and a regular basis. For someone, a manager, for a team that has a manager that prides himself and is well known on defensive formations, the amount of times we can have 6 players in the box and there be one opposing player, and that opposing player always gets the ball or always manages to score, it just bamboozles me. But yeah, I mean, it was a mess. It was one of those things. I think part of it's it's clearly everyone was shocked. There was no communication at that time, and it panicked set in. But to be fair to Watkins, he meant a flick on. It went straight to him. You know, he knew where his partner was, and then obviously it was in the back of the net. So at that point, 2-1 down. Did we think we were going to get back into it, Tim?
Yeah, I for some bizarre, freaky reason, admittedly I was watching at midnight, so I was probably half asleep. But I just felt the way we were playing, how we started getting back into the game, I was quite hopeful. I didn't expect to do quite as well as we did in the second half, but I could see that the players were, during that first half, they were getting a bit more back into the swing of it, figuring out what they were having to do. So yeah, I was quite hopeful.
Just going to interject. James Convey said it's now 2-2 with the under-23s. So let's hope the boys can dig in a bit and then push on from there. Right. Okay. So let's move on because we're
sorry, and I know you're going to say it. I just in the chat, Matty Cannon and a few others are saying how narrow we were, and we were at Southampton. There were so many times when at the back post, Ward left his man, and at Southampton it kind of made the excuse that he was marking. Forward's gone out of my head. Really good forward. For Southampton. Sorry.
Oh, Danny Ings.
Danny Ings, yeah. So at Southampton, we made the excuse that Ward was coming across to cover Danny Ings, and that's why we were left exposed to the back post. But the fact that it was happening in this game as well, it kind of implies that that's not the reason.
Yeah, I think as we touched on earlier, I think it's definitely a ploy for teams that certainly the Chelsea's, the Man City's, and it will be for Liverpool. They'll just overload the wings. That's all they will do is overload the wings and put us under pressure. Right, okay, let's move forward because, as I say, we've time's marching on and we're just still talking about the game. So our second goal, which was Wilf, cut him in. Do you think he deserved a goal at that point, Greg?
If you don't shoot, you can't score. You know that the fact that it hits the player and goes in is just one of those things. So he's got himself into the position. He's unloaded the shot. So. He's intending to go for goal. So yeah, I think you've got to be in the position to do it, and he was, and he's found the net via the Villa guy. So yeah, I think if a player can put him in that situation, if you're gonna pull the trigger, and it's just great to get the goal. Clearly we've had a bit of luck with deflections because I think in the Southampton game there was a deflection in that game. Or was it? No, sorry, it was the Sheffield United game. Sorry. So it's nice to have a bit of luck on our side for once. It's all too often you've seen those kinds of shots go nowhere. But no, I didn't think we were going to get back into the game. I was being negative as per normal. I was, to be honest, the way Villa were playing, I was expecting to end up losing 4-1. But at 2-2, it was nice, to get the goal and. I thought then that lifted the spirits, and I think it sort of propelled the team on.
Tim, Matty Cannon's touched on the fact that we play with much more freedom in that second half. And do you think that freedom built up the pressure to then, allow Wilf the time and the space in the box to score?
Oh, definitely. I think you could see the Villa. It's a bit like, I think it was it the Spurs game last season, the last game of the season, where first half they bossed it, and in the second half they just sat back. I think it was the same with the Villa game. I think the way we came on forced Villa back and took, and us going forward stopped them coming forward. So it gave Wilf, and as the Wilf partnership started flourishing more. And I think once that starts to flourish, confidence comes, and it will come even more. So yeah, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, isn't it, Rob? I mean, their partnership's starting to develop all over the place. And obviously with Wilf now scoring goals, that was his 11th, it's his best return. Can you see him becoming far more of a goal threat moving forward?
Yeah, definitely. As I say, I think him and Eze, it's like when Balassi was at the club with Wilf. They kind of play off each other and outdo each other with tricks and do, but at the same token, there's kind of a respect there, and they start to interact a lot more and play off each other. And their link-up play was really good. On that second goal, was it that after we'd made the switch and Tompkins run the header that gave it to Eze? Because I think that made a huge difference. It was a huge boost coming on, but Kayeta going in midfield and Tompkins at the back, we just looked so much more assured.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I want to touch on. I'll come back to you, Tim, on that, actually, with regards to the changes that Roy made. Now, Czech Kiarte's done an amazing job for a centre midfielder playing in the back as well as he has and as consistently well as he has. But do you think getting Tompkins back in and allowing Kiarte to move into the middle of the park also helped cement our foothold in the game?
Definitely. I mean, he's a midfield player. I mean, we've not had the chance to play, unfortunately, this season because of injuries. But definitely, I mean, to my mind, if all the players are fit, Luca doesn't get a game because I just think we've got better midfielders for different purposes. His age is the only thing, I guess, that might come into play. But he was definitely better in the middle, definitely.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Right, okay, cometh the hour, cometh the man. In the last 10 minutes, get a chance at the far post, bit scrappy, and then Wonderboy turns up with his shoulder and just throws it in, and then all pandemonium breaks out. How did you feel for him, Greg, when you saw him scoring, Mr. Mitchell?
Oh, I was thrilled. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, I thought it was going to get ruled out for VAR initially. So I didn't want to get too carried away. You know that feeling, oh, we've nicked it, I can't believe it. Yeah, but they deserved it. At the end of the day, the second half, Palace really played better football, and looked way more threatening. Villa really did I think they let go of that game. But no, I don't want to discredit the team. I thought Palace still had to go out there and create that, and they did. And Mitchell's just found himself in the right place at the right time, and he's managed to get a good shoulder on it. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. It was definitely a game that, what do they call it? A dead rubber, don't they? It doesn't mean anything to either side anymore. But in the end, it served up a 5-goal, entertaining game. Which has been a rarity for us this season. The entertaining part. But yeah, I was thrilled.
Rob, what were your immediate thoughts seeing our left back in the 6-yard box throwing himself at the ball? I mean, did you actually think it was going to be ruled out like I did initially?
I did. Do you know what? When Balotelli scores with his shoulder like that, and everyone says how amazing he is, like our player does it, and we're worried about VAR. No, but what I really liked about it was afterwards. He said it was a bit of a daze. He couldn't really think, and you can almost see that he kind of just stumbled in there, didn't know where he was. But one thing one of the commentators did say, and on the one I was watching, was that he was very clever in the fact that he didn't give the referee or VAR an option, that he impeded the goalkeeper or harassed the defender and caused a foul. He just stayed apart from them and got his body in the way. And from that element, there was no question that there was any foul or anything. He just got there first. But yeah, I was nervous that it was going to be a handball with the stupid handball rules.
Tim, how much of a shame is it that there wasn't a crowd there to see that?
Oh, I was gutted for the boy. I mean, you could see the interviews with him afterwards, how much it meant to him, and to have even a couple of thousand fans there to celebrate. I mean, he'll never get another first goal for the club. And I think what it also means, what it also showed the interviews afterwards, was how, even though we knock it sometimes, there is a good team spirit at the club. Where they were saying, he was interviewed by the TV, and when he walked into the dressing room, everyone from the manager to the other players to the kit guy all gave him a standing round of applause when he walked back in, spontaneous. Now, you don't do that if you haven't got a good team spirit.
No, I think you're right.
I think the Villa team did it as well, what I heard.
Yeah, probably. I mean, because Hodgson said he was in the middle of a team talk and they all just blanked him and then just stood up and then applauded, which I thought was fantastic anyway. Right, okay, I think we've done the game of death. I think we're all grateful for the win. And it's yet another game I've not got any points on in the league. So we'll gloss over that. But yeah, it's onwards and upwards to Arsenal, which we'll talk about in a minute. But obviously, going into the game, there have been rumours, and they're not just quiet rumours. They're rumours that are getting apace. That this obviously the decision's been made, and that Roy isn't going to be with us at the end of the season. And I think we're seeing that now, hints of that with Roy's comments. About that, the team will be good moving forward and everything else that I've seen quoted in the press today, which is a bit of an odd comment to make, considering that if you thought he was going to be there, he'd say, yeah, we'll need to get some more players, and we're going to be doing this, we're going to be doing that. But that's not how it's come across. So with that, I've had a look as to who the potential successors are. I know we've been talking about it for a few weeks, and people have quite rightly said, well, who would you get in? But I've been looking at the odds today, and the initial rumours came out saying that Frank Lampard was is going to come in and everything else. And I know that there's been just the one major article so far saying it's not going to be him. So again, it's all rumours and speculation. But just to try and start, thinking ahead and thinking as to who potential options could be. The odds currently, as they stand, probably about 2 hours ago, is Lampard is currently 11-4 favourite. Sean Dyche is 4-1. Steve Cooper, obviously Swansea are playing at the minute, is 5-1. Valerian Ismail, which I think is a bit of a left field one for me, 15-2. And Eddie Howe's still got his hat allegedly in the ring, even though there was talk of him going to Celtic a while back. At 11-1. Rob, out of those, who do you think not necessarily would suit us, but who do you think would be the best step forward for us? Because that's the whole point of this, isn't it? It's about us moving forward as a club.
Lampard, I like what he done with the youth with Chelsea. Obviously, they've gone on and they've tightened up at the back and stuff, and they're doing well this season. But I do like what Lampard done. They had no money to spend, and he was charged with good on youth. Obviously, they've got players all over on loan everywhere, left, right, and centre to call upon. But with our under 23s performing like they are and under 18s, I think bringing them through would be a real boon. Dyche, I wouldn't be unhappy with in terms of progressing. It's a bit more of the same. But if you're doing, it depends. It all depends on if we have a war chest or not. Who we're bringing in. If we're stuck with what we've got, then Dyche would be the safer option in the transition. Or if we've got a bit of money to add a bit of talent, I'd have Lampard bringing in the youth and with 1 or 2 signings.
What about you, Tim?
That's my big thing. I don't want Eddie Howe.
No, okay.
I think a lot of it depends on the board and the mindset of the board. If the board seriously want us to progress, move forward, it's got to be Frank Lampard, because we simply don't have the money to go out and buy the quality and number of players we will need come the close season. Really sensibly, the only way forward is to promote from within. And in Frank Lampard, you've got someone who has a proven track record of that. And I'd like to see, give it a year, and Cahill start coaching after him.
Sorry, Tim. I mean, it's interesting to note that with Frank Lampard, Steve Cooper, Ishmael, and Eddie Howe in that top five, that are allegedly in the running, you've got 4 managers that play a different way to the way that we currently play and play a more fluid type of football. Sean Dyche is probably a step up from Hodgson, somewhere in the middle, which is quite. What are your thoughts on that, Greg, as to maybe the style of football that we'd be looking to play? And do you think now, because again there are thoughts that it's going to be announced before tomorrow's game to give the fans a chance to thank Roy for his service, and rightly so, and for keeping us, on an even keel. Do you think, again, making a decision so early, if that was to happen, do you think that's going to be work in our favour as well?
I think in terms of style of football, let's rewind to pre-Roy with Frank de Boer. The club are moving on from Pardew, and we're envisaging changing the style and bringing a new type of football. And then we fast forward to the appointment of Roy, because we know how that ended out. Roy got dealt a really bad hand and turned it round and has put the club where it is and kept the club where it is and done a fantastic job. The style of football has not been pretty, entertaining. None of those words are associated to that style of play that we've been watching for a while. And I completely understand why certain fans want to move on from Roy, and whether this is now the end for Roy. But I do feel it's important to acknowledge that Roy really has done the best with what he's had, and we've had to win ugly. So I think the club is probably looking to move away for a more attractive style of football. If we were to go with Dyche, it would be more of the same. It would be ugly winning. There's nothing wrong with ugly winning. Do we want to see a better style of football
or ugly winning?
Ugly win. Ugly winning. Let's face it. It hasn't been pretty under Roy, but it's got the job done, and let's just say it's steadied the ship for a couple of seasons, or please correct me how many it is since Roy's taken over. But it never to be discredited for what Roy's achieved. I think it's brilliant. There's lovers, there's haters. Could we have done better? We've not been in the relegation zone for all season. I'd love for someone to tell me when we were last sat in the relegation zone. It isn't pretty exciting. It is a bit boring, but Roy hasn't put us there. He's kept it going. But maybe now is the time for us to look forward, because we don't know if Zaha will be there next season, so that might change things still. So do we want to move? Do we want to? It's a make or break season, isn't it? I think out of the options, I'd rather go with Lampard. I agree with what Rob said earlier. He'd done a good job with the youth players. He'd come through a youth system himself. At West Ham, Chelsea, England's international. He's got all of the credentials and all of that experience to pass on to what we're hoping is a promising batch of under 23 players that we've got. Even if, out of a starting 11, even if 2 of those players were good enough to make it, that's still 2 players that we've invested time in. And I think he's the right player. He will be the right person to really to take those players and make the best of them. So I think, for me, it would be Frank Lampard playing as a more attractive style of football. I think that's what most people would want.
Tim, I could see you squirming. I'm going to come to you. I've just noticed a bus driver from Deepest Croydon saying, my main concern with Roy is he has coached the flare out of our exciting players. Now, that is a fair point. And do you think that's part of the reason for maybe having 4 managers, or in the top 5 favourites that have got a different style of play to keep the players we've got, but also to bring those, because the under 18s have got another 4 Eze-esque players in there. I mean, Raksaki looks an unbelievable. His feet are phenomenal. So, what are your thoughts on, Mr. Philpott's comments?
I agree completely. I agree with Greg. Yeah, Roy did a great keeping us up. I mean, I don't think anybody else could have probably done it. But I've got to say, you look at yesterday's game, all of us saying, why haven't we been playing like that before this season, last season, when Roy's been in charge? How many games have we commented on afterwards and said, why has he not made a sub? We're losing. Why has he left to the 88th minute to bring on a sub? He's had other options to bring youth, and he hasn't. He's kept playing the same players. So I agree, Roy is a legend. I don't think anybody else would have kept us up that season. But I do think there have been plenty of opportunities, especially over the last 2 seasons, where he could have freshened up. He could have had us playing better football. And to be fair, I think it's only the fact that there haven't been supporters in the ground that's kind of, he's still there. Because I think if people have been, if we've had a full house every home game, paying the sort of money you got to pay to go and watch football like we've been playing, yes, it may have kept us up. But I think the other thing to think about is we've been very lucky with the quality of the other teams in the Premier League over the last few years. You look at the clubs that have been relegated, the number of points that it's been when you've been saved. I think we've been quite lucky in those other teams that have been in the league with us.
Yeah, no, all very fair points. And I have to say that Laurie Scott, firm favourite of the show, said that, despite what we're saying about Eze and despite Nick's comments, Roy's actually made Eze a more rounded player because he's improved his defensive qualities, which again is such a fair point. And I think obviously moving him into the middle was allowing him that chance to breathe. And I think in such a defensive system, other people do the donkey work and allow him to carry the ball. I just like to see him a bit further up the pitch. So no, that's a fair point, Laurie. Right, okay. So let's quickly move on. Then we'll keep our eyes on the situation as things develop, and obviously I've no doubt this will come up again next week. Right. So player situations. Do we think this is why we've not, the impending news of Roy leaving us? Do we think that's why we've left it so long and so many players seemingly contracts to lapse? And if so, do we think that Benteke is worthy of at least another year, Rob?
100%. Yeah. I've always been a fan of Benteke, even when he's been going through the crisis of confidence. There was a stage where he really tested me with the sealing the penalty off Milivojevic, but I've never been against him at all. And people have laughed at what he brings defensively. If that's all he's got, it's a striker. He shouldn't be doing that. But that can't be underestimated. I think the amount of clearances we get from a corner and the near post because of Benteke is phenomenal. Yes, you want your striker to score, but as I say, now he's starting to do that. I think it's a no-brainer. I can't see who will go out and get better with the money we've got at the moment in the form he's in.
Greg, where do you think, if we do sign Benteke on, where do you think that leaves Mateta? And also, does that mean that we'll be over-reliant on Benteke being on form all the time moving forward?
Yeah, I think we would become over-reliant on Benteke. Where does it leave Mateta? Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't he on an 18-month loan deal?
He is, yeah.
So he presumably will be there for the start of the season. So he's going to be in the squad. So if Benteke does sign on, let's just say he signs a 1-year contract extension for argument's sake. So you've got Benteke and Mateta and Ayew, and Batshuayi returns to Chelsea. If Benteke doesn't sign and your original question is, would you sign him on for a year? My answer would be yes, I would sign him on for a year, irrespective of his form. I know he's come good in these last few games and scored a number of goals, but my head says to me, who would we realistically go out and sign that would be better than Benteke to replace him? So I'm thinking, well, you may as well offer the guy reduced terms and get him in the squad and keep him there for another season as an option. The club have got to focus on bringing in a permanent signing centre forward. They've obviously got Mateta on loan as another space available. Whether they take another striker is yet to be seen. But I would expect the Mateta would get a bigger run out next season, because presumably at some point, Benteke might fall out of favour. So that's how I see the situation. Sign him up for another season to give you the option. You're going to lose Batshuayi, but you've still got Mateta for arguably another year.
Okay, Tim, I'll just ask you a slightly different question, but feel free to answer the Benteke one as well. Where do you think the squad actually needs strengthening?
On Benteke, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'd definitely give him another season. I'd send back to Chelsea, and I'd sell Ayew. Keep Mateta, Benteke. You've got Wilf that can play up front or drop back if you need to. So that's what I see up front. I think centre, because Cahill's, still a quality player, but he's getting on a bit. Dan is going to go. Tonkins, he's getting on a bit as well. Hopefully Ferguson will be fit. Hopefully he'll come back and play. So we've got that. For me, the middle as well, because Eze is in the middle. He can be creative, but MacArthur's getting on a bit. MacArthur's not that young, I don't think. Luca's passed his sell-by date. So I think the middle and centre-back we need.
Rob, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think Chris would just put in a chat everything I agree with. We need a centre-back, a young centre-back, commanding centre-back. We need a left-back to push Tyreek Mitchell. He's a young lad. I think a bit of experience, but as a backup for him, but quality centre-back. And same with right-back. We need a real energy in the midfield. We need youth in the midfield. We don't necessarily need a playmaker. We just need someone to do the Luca role, to take over from Luca in centre mid. And we need someone on right wing. I'd give Townsend another season if he continues to play like that, but I don't think Townsend has got the energy to play every game now. So I want a right winger as well.
I'd like to see Riedewald get more time as well. I think he could be a good long-term player.
Yeah, I agree. I think we all would. I think, ever since he's been at the club, he's been one of the top two most technically gifted players that we've got. Certainly until Eze came aboard, but he's so underrated, Riedewald. And I think he suffers from being put alongside Luca and doing like one and a half players' jobs a lot of the time. For me, I think that centre-back is the key issue for me. I think we should have gone for Tomori this time last year. As we said it on the show, I'd like to go. I think who's the English centre-back at Everton? Not Ben Godfrey. It's not Ben Godfrey. It's the other one. But apparently he could be up. So I think we know. I think the centre-back's always a problem for us as a club, bringing them through. I think it must have been the 80s or to the early 80s. Since we brought some young centre-backs through into the team, and I would like us to go to maybe the Championship. There's obviously good players out there that we could approach, rather than players in Italy that we're going to desperately try and get on loan. To what end, I don't know. What about you, Greg? Where do you think the squad needs securing, strengthening?
Straight through the spine. I think straight through the middle. 2 centre halves, 2 more midfielders, and 2 centre forwards. I think if there's a lot of players that I think we've really extracted every drop of quality out of now, and I think that's clear with their contracts coming to an end and the age of the squad. It is an old squad. I just think straight through the middle, really. MacArthur, I think, is probably at the end of his tenure. Dan, and like you said, a number of the players that you've listed. And you're quite right with Ferguson being injured all season. That they've obviously known the risk that they've taken on him, that he wasn't going to be fit. I think we knew this when he was signing, that he had a major injury. So, that's still going to feel like getting a new player. I still feel that Ward could play a role. Martin Kelly, I think, is only 30, and I don't see why there's any reason that you would let him go. But yeah, competition. Well, not so much competition for Mitchell. Mitchell's young, and you'll want him to start as many games as possible. But you want to avoid burnout on promising young players. So you've got to have someone who really is well aware that they might not play all season and share the burden with Mitchell at left back. So in answer to your question, a centre half, a left back. 2 centre midfielders and 2 centre forwards, and they don't all necessarily have to be permanent transfers. I just think, is it 2 loans you're allowed?
I think it's 3, isn't it?
Then there's no reason why they shouldn't take 3 loans if that's what you can get. Clearly, I don't run the finance at the club, but if you're offered 3, get 3. Give yourself as much option as you can, and that's to even just look at players, because who knows how good these players are, on the training pitch. What's their attitude sorry.
Yeah, very true. In answer to your question, Jamie, it'll be through the players' wages we get rid of, I would have thought. I know there is a war chest there anyway. I know that, and it's at least 40 million from what I understand. And clearly, the reason Roy's not had his hands on it is because he probably wouldn't buy anyone that we would all want, and there was clearly holding it back for someone else. Holgate, thank you, Tom. That's who I was thinking of. I'd also add to my list Tuanzebe at Man United. I think he's a great prospect at centre back, and I think if we put a decent bid in for him, we could get him as well, young English kid. So there's plenty of talent out there. We just have to be smart about it. Right, okay, time's running away now. Sorry, Lucy, 5 minutes. Right, Arsenal, Wednesday. The fans are back. Are any of you going? Well, not you, obviously, Tim.
I'd love to, but
I'm going. I only decided last night. Just had of the off chance there were still tickets, and there are still tickets. So I've taken it and taken my 2 oldest boys. And honestly, they think it's like Christmas. One of them's got a countdown on. He's saying he got home from school today and said it's been the longest day ever, and we've still got another day to get through before we go. So he's so excited to be back. So yeah, I can't wait.
That's fantastic. How do you feel about it, though?
Yeah, Albert's shut, so I'm going to miss the pub beforehand. But no, I can't wait. We're not in our usual seats. We're somewhere else. So yeah, win, lose or draw, it's just great. I just want to hear singing and not crowd noise. So
yeah, well, to anyone that's managed to get a ticket and go, good luck, enjoy it. And if it is Roy's last game, give him a fantastic send-off from everyone here. Right, okay. Under 23 update just before we go is 2-2. I think they've gone into extra time, so fingers crossed they'll get through it. And just before we go, another reminder that obviously the season ends in a couple of weeks' time, or in just over a week's time, isn't it? And then obviously we've got the Euros to look forward to, and obviously we are running the Euro Prediction League. Details for that can be found on redandbluereview.co.uk, and there you can enter your interest in registering for it. And with that, guys, it just leaves me to say thank you very much for your company tonight. Thank you for the insights as well. Obviously, the 3 of you will be back on time and time again. But if it's not before the end of the season, I wish you well and have a good summer. And with that, I'll say goodbye. See you later.
See you later, all. Thank you.
Cheers. See you now.